Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Meet the OAA information session. My name is Ida Badre, and I'll be your host tonight. I'm an OAA Interns Committee member and an architect practicing here in Ottawa. Today's event will be an introduction of all things OAA and local societies. This includes who we are, what we do, and why it's relevant to you. We'll also touch on opportunities on how you can get involved, and at the end, we'll wrap up the presentation by doing our best to answer any questions you might have. Equally as important, this is an event for you to get all your questions answered. So the event will be split 50-50, half presentation and half Q&A. Before we begin today's session, I'd like to go over some quick housekeeping notes. First off, we have a very large group of attendees, so today's session is being run as a Zoom webinar. That means we cannot see or hear you, but you can hear and see us. If you do want to ask us a question, please type it out anytime using the Q&A button below. It's the one with the 2 speech bubbles. You won't be able to use the chat box, but we'll use it to share some important links throughout the session. If you don't get to them, don't worry, we'll be sending out an email next week that includes all of them. We'll be covering a lot of information today, so this session is being recorded and will be available on the OAA social media channels and website, so you can go back and re-listen to any part you might have missed. And if you require captions, live closed captioning is being provided today in English. Just turn on the captions by using the CC button at the bottom of your screen. So I'd like to thank everyone for attending this evening's Meet the OAA event. The event is open to everyone that is interested in practicing architecture in Ontario. The Ontario Association of Architects is a self-regulated organization governed by the Architects Act, a statute of the Government of Ontario. We're dedicated to the administration of the Act through enhancement of our members' skills, competencies, knowledge, and most importantly, protecting the public interest. Meet the OAA is part of our outreach efforts to engage directly with those who wish to practice architecture in Ontario. We do want to improve and enhance outreach, so any feedback is more than welcome at the end. We welcome everyone to engage with our panel of speakers today. Our speakers will be sharing different aspects of the OAA, including what we do and how we fulfill our mandate. So alongside me, we have some great speakers joining us today. Please welcome Settimo Velarde, OAA Council President, Christine Mills, the Registrar of the OAA, Clayton Pear, Architect and OAA Council Member, Heather Breeze, Intern Architect, Neo Mahfouz, Architect, Samira Amjad, Architect, Joel Leon, Architect and guest speaker from the Toronto Society of Architects, and Vincent Hui, Interns Committee Member and Educator. Please welcome our first speaker, Settimo Velarde, Architect and OAA President.
Thanks, Ida. Thanks. Good evening, everyone. Just got to apologize. The life of a busy architect. I happen to find myself in Toronto at the Billy Bishop Airport tonight. Not planned, but this ability to do this remotely has kind of helped me greatly in my presidency. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Settimo Velarde, and I became president of the OAA Governing Council this January 2023. I'm getting close to my first term as president. I'm a practicing architect in Windsor, Ontario. I have my firm there, and I'm the co-owner and principal at that firm. I like to call it a medium-sized firm for Windsor, but it's generally a small-sized firm under 10 people. But we do a lot of work, and like the OA, we really punch above our weight as far as size. I graduated from the University of Windsor with a Bachelor of Fine Arts degree in Visual Arts, which was my first degree, and then I attended the University of Toronto to receive my master's in architecture degree from that institution. I've been practicing architecture for just about 25 years, and our firm does a lot of different types of work, mostly institutional, commercial, industrial, but obviously we're sort of cross-disciplinary or cross typology. Windsor's a small town, so we have to sort of keep the range open. So I'm very pleased to be with you guys here tonight and to join virtually, and of course to be the president this year and represent council and work to the benefit of all Ontarians as we protect and serve the public interest. And for this, for the next slide, sorry, I'm going to pass you over to, sorry, I want to do the land acknowledgement next. So we had land acknowledgement created individually for our association, which we're very pleased to. Last year, we partnered with a firm called Creative Fire. They're an Indigenous-owned consulting agency to develop this meaningful land acknowledgement for the headquarters in Toronto. So I'd like to share that with you now. For millennia, the place we call Ontario has been inhabited by Indigenous peoples and nations who have been stewards of the land. We wanted to acknowledge the land on which our headquarters are built and where our staff and members gather. It has been the traditional territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit, as well as the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat. We honor the rich cultural and natural landscape our building and spaces are part of, and the connection to the land Indigenous peoples have valued since time immemorial. We are grateful for the Indigenous knowledge that guides us, and we commit to building in harmony with the land and creating sustainable spaces for generations to come. In the spirit of reconciliation, we acknowledge our responsibility to address past and present injustices and provide spaces for traditional knowledge and worldviews to shape the architectural landscape of Turtle Island. And this evening, at this virtual event, I invite you to take a moment to acknowledge the land on which you find yourself situated on, and reflect and recognize the significance of these territories to Indigenous peoples and our mutual obligation to respect and share these lands. I'd like to talk a little bit about our strategic plan. On my end, I'm just a slide behind. Oh, sorry, I apologize, guys. I wanted to talk about the Indigenous architecture page, so please go back. Thank you. I apologize, everyone. So in 2021, the OAA website added an Indigenous architecture page, which is here in front of you. You can visit the page by clicking under the resources menu at the oaa.on.ca. The page collects important news items and educational opportunities in the context of truth and reconciliation. We have other resources as well, including climate action, equality, diversity, and inclusion. And again, normally when I talk about EDI, I also like to talk about Indigenous reconciliation, because I think as much as those three are themes, and we have really strived in the area of Indigenous reconciliation. And most recently with our conference that we held in Sudbury during National Indigenous Week on National Indigenous Day, and a lot of our program, focused on Indigenous education and connections. Thank you. So I'll move on to the next slide, which is our strategic plan. So sorry, everyone, I was sort of jumping ahead there. Before I was president, I was part of the governance committee as a senior vice president and treasurer. And during that time, myself and other colleagues developed this 5-year strategic plan. And we took positions specifically on climate action, which obviously is very obvious to most people. And of course, equality, diversity and inclusion, and again, Indigenous reconciliation. So these are two lenses that we view sort of everything we do at the OAA. As a regulator, it's obviously an important, these are important lenses, but obviously as any organization, these are lenses that I think are important should be important to everyone, certainly here in Ontario and across Canada and in the world. I also want to talk about the 4 foundational goals, and you can see those along the bottom: regulatory leadership, governance and operations, member competency, and public education. And of course, public education, as Ida mentioned, is one of our key pillars, and part of this falling under this realm of what we're doing tonight is to try to educate public. And the public doesn't just mean residents of Ontario, but the public is everybody. The public is other interns, other architects, municipal officials, administrators. Everyone is sort of part of the public for us, and so it's an important element to mention. I understand the attendees for this webinar will receive an email next week with some additional resources and some links on the strategic plan. So you'll be able to kind of study these a little closer. I encourage everybody to take a look at this. One of my main goals as president was to kind of see this plan through. I didn't really have any other mandates except to make sure to kind of foster this strategic plan to its 5-year culmination, and hopefully we'll have made some significant strides, which we are doing, and we'll be able to look at the next 5-year plan and move forward. So I'm really excited. I know it's not exciting, it's stuff to do, but I think the OAA, has been an excellent regulator, continues to be, a top-notch sort of blue chip regulator, and having a strategic plan is really allowing us to start to stay on top as a top-notch regulator within the province of Ontario. I'll move on to the next slide to talk a little bit about committee structure. Actually, one of our mandates during the strategic plan was to sort of streamline this process. So had you looked at this chart maybe a year ago, it would have looked much different. But in this case, it has been really streamlined. And this is another thing I'm really excited that we were able to do, is really focus the attention of the OAA to its core structure. And you can kind of see that here in this slide. As I mentioned, I became the president of council earlier this year. The council is comprised of a total of 15 architects that are elected by the membership, and up to 5 public appointed from the province of Ontario. We call this Lieutenant Governor and Council Representative, LGICs. And these guys obviously work with us to represent the Office of the Attorney General, who essentially our statute is under. In addition to council, you can see that we've listed various committees and advisory groups here. Obviously, there are some distinctions between committees and advisory groups. And again, if anybody has any specific questions, you can certainly review the website or contact one of us to give you some more information. For some of them, there are volunteer opportunities that are still open for intern architects and student associates. So again, I want to encourage people to participate, and certainly our students and our interns, as well as architects. As president, I want to say that I'm really glad that everybody took the time to participate tonight. Participation is really key. This guided me to sort of participate. Like I said before, I'm a pretty active architect. I run my own business in Windsor and keep very busy. But it was important for me to also give back to the profession that's given to me. And so taking on a role on council, on committee, also on in the field, doing in committees or in our own societies back in our homes is a great way to contribute to that. As a president, I also wanted to talk a little bit about those that are on the path to becoming licensed as architects in Ontario, and as an OA member, I want to wish everybody sort of the very best. I know it can seem a bit of a long road, but we've all done it, and we really tried our best at the OA to support and shepherd people through the process. We have some really great people. Certainly our Office of the Registrar does an excellent job in assisting individuals through the process. And again, we are very mindful of the time that it takes individuals, and we look at that whenever we're looking at new policies or procedures, to keep that in mind, because again, we want to keep the process as smooth as possible throughout. So again, there's lots of experts here on the call tonight, so I'm going to encourage everybody to reach out with questions tonight or further if they do have any. And I want to thank everybody for, again, taking the time to listen to these few items that I was presenting. So thanks everyone, and I'll pass it back.
Thank you, Sedmo. Next, please welcome Christy Mills, Registrar of the Ontario Association of Architects.
Thanks so much, Ida, and thanks everybody for joining us tonight. The OAA, as Seth mentioned, has several different departments charged with carrying out the many requirements under the Architects Act and its regulation. But the team in the Office of the Registrar manages a lot of the statutory functions, inclusive of registration, elections, act enforcement and investigations, complaints and discipline, But one of our main responsibilities is to administer the legislative process to become licensed in Ontario. As you can see from the chart that's up on the board there are several different pathways to becoming licensed as an architect, depending on your level of education and experience, and or whether you've been licensed in another jurisdiction outside of Ontario. I will briefly describe these pathways, but the OAA website will have much more information on each of them. So number one, and the most common path to license, is the National Internship in Architecture Program, which we commonly refer to as the IAP, was created and is maintained by the National Regulatory Organizations of Architecture in Canada, ROAC. Each of the provincial and territorial regulatory jurisdictions administer this program in a consistent manner so that reciprocity excuse me, across the country can be maintained. That's license for license mobility across Canada, the different provinces and territories. Another pathway to licensure for individuals who do not have a professional degree in architecture is that they may be able to participate in the Royal Architecture Institute of Canada, RAIC, syllabus program. And upon successful completion, this program facilitates entry into the IAP. Canada has many license for license treaties and mutual recognition agreements with several countries. So if you are licensed in one of those jurisdictions and meet the eligibility requirements, you may be able to become licensed through one of these treaties or agreements. And lastly, there is the Broadly Experienced Foreign Architect Program, BIFA. This process and this program is administered by the Canadian Architectural Certification Board, the CACB, so it's administered nationally and not by any specific provincial or territorial jurisdiction. And the BIFA program is, and the CACB is the best resource for information about the program. And it is most often used by individuals who are licensed in a jurisdiction with which Canada does not have one of those reciprocal licensing agreements. But for the purposes of this chat, we will focus on the National Internship in Architecture Program, or the IAP, which is the typical pathway for individuals enrolled in an accredited school of architecture, like most of the individuals who have joined us tonight. There are 12 schools of architecture accredited via the Canadian Architectural Certification Board, the CACB that I mentioned earlier. You can check out what schools are accredited, as well as the accreditation report for each school, to better understand how schools achieve this status of accreditation. But basically, it is the public recognition accorded to a professional program that meets the established professional qualifications and educational standards assessed through initial and periodic evaluations as directed by the CACB. As a side note, the CACB is also tasked with assessing the educational qualifications of graduate from international schools of architecture. But the most important thing to remember for this group is having your education certified by the CACB once you graduate. This certification of your education with the CACB is a critical step to becoming enrolled in the Internship in Architecture program path licensure. And the good thing is it's a fairly streamlined process. All of the Canadian accredited schools of architecture have a direct relationship with the CACB. So upon graduation, your records and documents are forwarded to the CACB. They do their assessment and you are issued the certification in a very streamlined manner. And wherever you want to get licensed or start the IAP program in Canada, those jurisdictions will receive your CACB certification. But as you can see from the diagram here, there are three main components to the IAP. That's experience, examination, and the admission course in Ontario. And to move through the IAP process in its entirety, you must hold intern architect status with the OAA. Intern architects have a professional degree in architecture, have had their transcripts certified by the CACB, and must work under the personal supervision and direction of an architect in either an architectural practice or other eligible architectural employment situations, and they must have a mentor as well. So in terms of the experience, there are requirements that must be met in order to record experience. All of your experience must be recorded in what's called the Canadian Experience Record Book, the CERB. And each submission must be approved by your supervising architect and mentor. And there'll be conversations about the mentorship later on in the talk. And you must complete a minimum of 3,720 hours in specific categories of architectural experience. And then each category will have a minimum number of hours assigned to it, and then required activities in each category. And the IEP manual and the Appendix B to the IEP manual, which is the Ontario specific requirements, provide guidance, and they're on our website. They provide guidance on acceptable employment situations, definitions of experience categories, and all the other important information, all the important program information. And once you're enrolled, it's important that you regularly review the IEP manual when you are unsure about categories of experience you are entering on the CERB. And we need to be mindful that the fundamental purpose of the pre-licensing employment period is to ensure that the intern architect is provided with sufficient hands-on architectural experience to meet the standards of practical skill and level of competence required to engage in the practice of architecture in Canada. Second part of the IEP of the licensure program is the national examination. In Ontario, intern architects must successfully complete either the examination for architects in Canada, the EXAC, or the Architects Registration Examinations, the ARE in the US, for licensure in Ontario. And you must have at least 2,800 approved hours in your record book to be able to register for EXAC. So you need to always be monitoring when EXAC is offered and how many hours you've already logged and approved. The examination for architects in Canada tests the minimum standards of competency acquired by an intern architect during the internship period to ensure both public safety and the professional and skilled delivery of architectural services. The questions and structure of the examinations are based directly on those experience categories that you will have been logging throughout your internship. The third aspect of the internship and architecture program is the OAA admission course. And this is a mandatory requirement for licensure for all intern architects in Ontario. It covers topics like regulatory matters, legal issues, and information specific to the practice of architecture in Ontario. This course is offered several times a year via the online admission course. And again, there's more information on the website about this. The OAA admission course is not intended to be an exam preparatory course. It's separate and distinct. It is a foundational piece created as a practical tool that supplements your work experience. Once you have successfully completed those three components that I have very quickly summarized of the IP, you then are eligible to apply for license in Ontario. And once you become a licensed professional, there's both privilege. I won't go into too much detail, but it's important to remember that you are now licensed with a regulatory body. You are bound to the enabling legislation, the Architects Act, and also, but you are the only ones by law who can call yourself an architect and who can set out in the Architects Act. You are going to be held to standards of practice, standards of performance and conduct as set out in the regulations. But also architects can vote on bylaws, and you can vote in council elections. You can run for OAA council. You can also volunteer for OAA task groups and committees that Setimo was previously talking about. So that's a very kind of quick rundown of the paths to licensure in Ontario, and I will hand it back to Ida. Thank you.
Thank you, Christy. Next up is Clayton Pear, architect and interns committee member.
Thank you. My name is Clayton. I'm an Ottawa Valley architect, actually transitioning back to the Southern Ontario region, as well as the counselor who's on my second of a 3-year term with the OAA Council. For those of you who are students or who are interns with the association, important to stay up to date on what's happening with the regulator of the profession you're looking to join. For those of you who have status with the OAA, you'll want to keep an eye out for the email newsletters and spend some time on the OAA website. If you want to find ways to make your voice heard within certain topics, it's important to be a bellwether in the industry, acting as this interesting bridge between academia and the profession. and also share the unique perspective on challenges facing newcomers to our industry. Later in this presentation, you'll hear about local societies or other groups where you can play an important part. And you can also play an important role right here at the OAA by staying critically informed. Our council meets several times a year. The next one is on December 1st, and I encourage you to join the open sessions virtually to learn more about the big issues and upcoming initiatives. If you visit the OAA website and select Connect and then Council, you'll be able to read all the comprehensive information packages, access the minutes of past meetings, and learn how to join us over Zoom. Probably the most direct way to have your voice heard is by joining an OAA committee. Earlier, Seth showed off a list of volunteer committees, and a few of them are actually looking for new members right now. These groups meet usually over Zoom several times a year. To find the link, visit the OAA website and just scroll down a bit to the homepage. From the homepage. You'll hear a lot more about the interns committee later in this webinar, but so for now, I want to focus on two other groups looking for intern architects or students associates as members. The Communications and Public Education Committee, or CPEC, provides oversight and advice on public education and outreach activities, focusing on ways to advance the public's understanding, appreciation, and recognition that architecture is integral to quality of life and well-being of society, as experienced through an inclusive, sustainable, resilient, and durable built environment. CPEC also provides input and advice to council with respect to specific aspects of local architectural societies, annual conference, shift challenge, and sponsorship and awards programs. An intern architect or student associate can put their name forward for a 3-year term. And there's the Policy Advisory Coordination Team, or PACT. The group coordinates the means to address specific issues and concerns that are political in nature. PACT ensures fair and transparent conditions for architectural practices by identifying emerging issues, coordinating their advancement, and facilitating communication between OAA committees. This group is looking for an intern architect to join them. If you're interested in serving on any of these committees, you can fill out an indication of interest form on the webpage and email it in along with your CV to the appropriate OAA staff member. However, you only have until Friday, October 20th, so you want to submit very soon.
Thanks, Clayton. Next, everyone, please welcome Heather Breeze, intern architect and interns committee member.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining today. I wanted to speak a little bit more about the interns committee after Clayton just gave a little bit of a preview and introduction there. So as was mentioned before, the OAA has many different committees. The interns committee is the one that reports directly to the OAA council about issues of importance to both intern architects and student associates. So the official sort of terms of reference for the committee is that the members shall advise council and the OAA staff on internship related matters, provide thoughtful and responsible consideration of path to licensure matters consistent with the Architects Act, and provide input into how this information is disseminated or communicated. So the formation of this committee really was about the interns and the student associates. Also, as Clayton mentioned, current vacancies are open in the committee right now to licensed members, intern architects, and student associates, beginning their term in January 2024. Probably the most direct way of really getting further involved in the OAA is joining the interns committee. It's a great bridge, as was mentioned before, sort of between as you're getting out of academia or still doing your schooling and starting to explore the profession and sort of what your future looks like. The actual committee meets every 2 months. It's always after work hours, so you don't have to worry about any conflicts of interest there. And I highly encourage joining. For interns, it's a 3-year term, and students, it's a 1-year term. I've been on the interns committee now. This is my 3rd year after being on council as the intern representative. And I think it's a really great way to sort of learn not just about the profession, but also the kind of inner workings of the OAA and really your place as an intern or student and what your responsibilities and your opportunities are. It's really a great way to see the kind of cogs of the machine and how you fit in and what else you can learn. I wanted to share also one of the many initiatives that have come out of the Interns Committee. A few others will be spoken to later on in this presentation. But one of the kind of largest things that took up the committee's time in the last couple of years is the publishing of the Interns Comprehensive Research Report. So this report was the first document and initiative to sort of amalgamate data and all sorts of feedback that the committee and council have been getting since the enactment of the internship program. And this report contains all of those things, as well as a thoughtful analysis of those types of issues and feedback. So all of those informations and data were collated, and it really focused on the most three sort of recent reports or survey, which was the 2019 mentorship survey, the 2020 Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Roundtable, and the 2020 Interns Title Survey. Some of you might remember some of these events, and also those are always searchable in the OAA if you want to look at them individually. Out of those sort of three main things and the rest, several overarching kind of major themes came out that were due for more careful analysis. That was professional challenges, IEP challenges, job opportunities, and networking. And so those are kind of the most important issues that are facing interns and students today that we've really been hearing over the last while. And so out of comparing those things and studying them, several recommendations came out of the report. And all of those recommendations are in progress right now. The first one was obviously to publish the report. That's been done. The second and third ones were concerned with developing a system of tracking these recommendations and a calendar list of other events and resources. Setimo mentioned the strategic planning that has happened in the last couple of years for the OAA. And so those things are really tied up in the strategic planning and have really been included with sort of other tracking items. All of it has been comprehensively put together and addressed. There's a few other specific things about developing further education for interns issues, talking about employment standards, and also committing to further study of the intern title, again, which has been rolled into a sort of wider strategic approach that the OAA is taking. You can find this report along with many other reports on the OAA website. You can search under the reports section, Interns Committee Comprehensive, or you can search just for news about it. I highly encourage you, if you're a new intern or even a more seasoned one or a student associate, to take a look through this interns research. It contains a lot of answers to questions that I still hear and that my colleagues in the OAA still hear about, what does it mean to be an intern? How are interns faring in the profession? It really contains a lot of great information. I also wanted to talk a little bit more about the interns page on the website. So the OAA website has undergone a major shift in the last few years, and it's always being optimized to make sure that things are easily findable and searchable. So if you go to the intern architect page on the website, it contains all of the major information that you need to know. It has links to other people you may need to speak to at the OAA, other documents that you may need to refer to. And right front and center on those two black bubbles there are the IEP manual and the Appendix B. I would say these are the most important documents that an intern needs to know. So I encourage you to get familiar with them if you haven't already. The IEP manual contains all of your kind of key information about how to log your internship hours, how to find a mentor, how to register your employer and your supervisor. And the Appendix B is what I sort of call the fine print of that. So more detailed instructions about parallel experience or financial hardship, all great resources that you should definitely take advantage of as an intern. And then as a student, you can get that knowledge. And all of that is right there for the taking. And as Christy mentioned earlier, the internship program is not the only path to licensure. There's several others. So also on the OA website, I encourage you to take a look at the Becoming an Architect page that she mentioned earlier while she was discussing about those paths. All the information is there, as well as further resources sort of outside of the OA website or other people that you can speak to when you're looking about how to become an architect. Thank you.
Thanks, Heather. Next, please welcome Neil Mahfouz, Architect and Interns Committee member.
Thank you, Ida. And hello, everyone. As Ida noted, my name is Neil Mahfouz. I am an architect at Arcadis IBI Group and a project manager specialized in transit architecture and infrastructure. I've been part of the Interns Committee for the past 3 years, and I will be talking to you today about mentorship in the OAA. At the OAA, mentorship is your key to success. It's more than a requirement. It's a pathway that propels you forward. Imagine yourself as an intern architect navigating the challenges of becoming licensed. Your mentor, a seasoned architect, is your guide through these uncharted waters. Every interaction enriches your understanding, providing insights you won't find within your own practice. And this journey isn't just about reaching your destination. It's about expanding your architectural network beyond your workplace. Forge connections that span beyond walls, weaving a web of relationships that shape your career. And let me tell you from firsthand experience, upon my arrival to Canada, I found myself without any familiar faces in the country. I commenced my career with the OAA and South Mentor, unaware that the mentor I connected with would evolve into a close friend with whom I would later embark on numerous endeavors. He went beyond guiding me through my OAA path and imparting architectural knowledge. He became a family member to me that I have his cell phone number in my phone speed dial, even until now, 4 years after his passing. Next slide, please. Within the intern committees, mentorship drives impactful initiatives like amazing mentorship stories, showcasing the profound bonds between mentors and mentees that go beyond mandates. We actively seek such narratives for foster symbiotic relationships. Our commitment is further seen through enlightening surveys aimed to enhancing the mentorship dynamic, just what Heather has noted earlier. We've played a key role in developing the Online Mentors Database, a digital platform that facilitates seamless connection, which I will be elaborating on in the next or in the upcoming slides. Additionally, the OAA has released the mentorship guidelines 4 years ago, a valuable resource to elevate the OAA mentorship process. Within the intern committee, we're actively working on enhancing the supervising architects guidelines within the same document, aiming to drive progress in the architectural profession. Recognizing the significance of diversity in our practice, the intern committee is dedicated to exploring and expanding opportunities. We are focused on encouraging a greater participation of female identifying and minority members within the OAA to engage in memberships through the EAP program. Next slide, please. As we noted earlier, mentors assume a pivotal role in fostering your development, providing support both as a student and as an intern architect. They engage in collaboration alongside you and your supervising architect, overseeing your recorded hours, offering guidance, and shaping your professional trajectory. Notably, the OAA has meticulously designed an expansive mentor database accessible to all interns. This invaluable tool aids in discovering mentors tailored to your region, personality, and expertise. This database, which I previously mentioned, is a result of dedicated efforts by the OAA team and volunteers mentors from the architects community. On the internal EAP webpage, a link titled Find or Become a Mentor awaits your exploration. Next slide, please. You can see how the search criteria of this database are finessed to be inclusive of everyone to assure a close match with your mentor. Those filters were developed based on researches and surveys that were conducted in 2021 and 2022. As we conclude, I strongly urge each of you to connect with an architect mentor, not merely for the sake of signing your continuing education record book, noted by Christy earlier, the CERB, but to absorb their accomplishment and glean insight from their journey and their path. Your growth is of utmost importance. Thank you for your attention, and back to you, Ida.
Thank you, Neil. Up next, to discuss networking opportunities with the OAA's local architectural societies and other groups, please welcome Joel Leon, who is an architect and programming director of the Toronto Society of Architects, or TSA.
Thanks, Ida. So today I'm going to talk about a little bit of what a local society is. And so first of all, local societies are considered kind of the regional chapters of the OAA, but they operate quite independently. At their core, they are important social groups and they're places for discussion and advocacy within your community. They are also volunteer-led and run. And so they are 100% dependent on people like you and the rest of the community to make them possible. And so they're a great opportunity to contribute and actually shape some of these discussions. And there are 14 local societies all across Ontario. They vary widely in scale from close to 3,000 members with the Toronto Society of Architects to as small as 5. And no two societies are alike, which is probably the most interesting thing about them. Each society is different in their size and their history and their local context, and that really shapes the type of work they do. So here's a map showing you where all of these societies are. So you can see these 14 societies all across Ontario, and just the diversity even of geographic reach. Societies like the Northwestern Ontario Society of Architects have a very, very large geographic area, but a very low population. Others like the Hamilton Burlington Society of Architects are very small in geographic area, but a really high number of members. So quite diverse and all across the province. So what exactly do societies do? I'm just going to give you some examples. And I always think photos talk a lot more than words. So here's some great photos of some events done by societies. Many organize social events throughout the year. And some of these events are more like structured networking events. So here's a picture of TSA Connect. This is the networking event run by the Toronto Society of Architects that happens 4 times a year. And it's an opportunity to get to meet professionals in your area. Other social events, and next slide, are a little more informal. This is a great photograph of the TSA Bash party that has been going on for now 136 years. So well attended and well known, and it brings about 500 architects from all across the region. So we also like to party. On the flip side, next slide, we also take education really seriously. Many of the local societies organize educational opportunities, whether in person or online. And what the topics are really depend on each of the societies. So again, here's an opportunity to influence what kind of education is out there, what kind of topics are being covered. And many of them are free to attend or very low cost. Next slide. Some societies also organize tours, and they're an opportunity to go actually check out some buildings under construction or sometimes entire sites. So you can see this picture is in the Portlands here in Toronto. That is where the Don River will eventually run. So the society got the opportunity to actually see this place before the Don River floods it. So a really good opportunity to actually go check out buildings and sites across. And sometimes there are virtual opportunities as well. And next slide. Many of the societies are also involved with local festivals. So think about opportunities to actually do installations. These are installation pictures from up here, a festival in Sudbury, and this were installations done by the Northern Ontario Society of Architects. Next slide. Or if film is more your thing, maybe you would like to attend with the Windsor Regional Society of Architects, the WIF Festival over at Windsor, the Windsor International Film Festival, where they take a big role in helping curate opportunities and films on architecture. Next slide. Many societies also take a big advocacy role and try to push for a better profession and a more inclusive profession. And so this is, again, your opportunity to help shape where these issues are going in our profession. And so here is an example of the Toronto Society of Architects' participation in the Pride Parade. And I would remiss not to mention that many of the local societies offer scholarships in both schools of architecture and of architecture technology, some of them recognizing academic merit and others recognizing volunteering within the community. So check out, maybe your school actually has one of these scholarships that you might be eligible for. Next slide. I also wanted to mention that in addition to local societies, there are many other architectural community groups that you can connect with and work with, and you don't have to wait until you're licensed to do so. In fact, I encourage you to do it before you get licensed. And some of them advance topics such as heritage. So, for example, the Architecture Conservancy of Ontario, which has chapters all across the province, while others focus on issues of equity, diversity, and inclusion in the profession. Beta, BEAT, and SOSA are excellent examples of that. And some of them are really pushing the envelope on things like labor rights in the profession, like the architectural lobby. So lots of opportunities there to get involved and have your say and shape the way our industry goes. So these are just some of the ones active right now in Ontario. So if you're wondering how to join a local society, the OAA website has one place where you can find the links to all of local societies, and they'll let you know how to join. Each society is a little bit different for joining, so you would have to contact kind of each society, or you can also do it when you renew your OAA membership. So that is an opportunity to both become an OAA member and start getting stuff from the OAA and join the local society affiliated to your region and get information from them. So you can get a 2-for-1 there. And that is all I have to say. So I'm going to pass it back to Ida to present the next speaker.
Thank you, Joel. Next up is Samira Amjad, Architect and Interns Committee member.
Hey everyone, I'm Samira. I'm an architect currently based in Toronto, and today I'll be talking about what it means to be a student associate with the OAA. So for all our students in the audience, you can also join the OAA by signing up as a student associate. In this section, I'm going to quickly walk you through the simple steps to sign up to become a student associate. And the best part is that it's completely free. Next slide, please. So in order to be eligible to become a student associate, you must be actively enrolled in an accredited university program in Canada or in the US, or be in the RAIC syllabus program. By joining, you can kickstart your path to licensure while still in school. The student associate program allows you to log up to 760 hours as part of the hours logged in your IAP. These 760 hours must be gained during your last 2 years of a master's program, which was discussed earlier in this presentation. Similarly to the process for intern architects, the experience will need to be signed off by your supervising architect at your workplace. A mentor is also required while the experience is gained. We do understand that finding a mentor can be quite challenging, especially at the very beginning of your journey. And this is where the mentor directory set up by the OAA proves itself to be very useful to help you find a mentor and eventually develop a valuable relationship with them. There are absolutely no fees for being a student associate, and joining is very easy. Next slide, please. So this slide presents a screenshot of the student associate webpage, which is accessed through the registration and licensing tab on the OAA website. All of the student associate information can be accessed under this heading. So definitely take some time to review the information, links, and references available there. Next slide, please. So if you meet the requirements outlined in the previous slide, you can join online by clicking on the black box in the screenshot. This will direct you to the application form available on the website. And the OA is available on all socials, so please feel free to follow us on social media. And again, it's really easy, and being a student associate with the OA presents a great opportunity for students to be a part of our community and to log their experience as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Samira. Next up, please welcome Vincent Hui, Educator and Interns Committee member.
Hi, everyone. I'm Vincent Hui, and I'm here to present a highlight reel of the many reasons to join the OAA as a student associate. I know we've covered it already, but students enrolled in the final 2 years of their Masters of Architecture program may be eligible to log up to 760 hours. That's 20% of their total CERB hours. Beyond that, though, there are a number of additional benefits being part of the OAA encompass. So many of you are still students or recent graduates, but as we all know, the education of an architect never ends. Take advantage of the plentiful educational resources available on the website. There's a huge practice online database with regular practice bulletins and lots of inspiring and, well, scary stories. Don't let that get to you though. If interaction is what you're interested in, Lunch and Learn webinars are provided several times a month with a variety of topics and speakers. The OAA has a variety of events that provide opportunities for networking with peers and potential employers and presenting or publishing work. The OAA blog is an exciting place where you can be a virtual voyeur and share your stories, drawings, projects, and thoughts with the entire community. This is a great venue to meet fellow student associates, interns, employers, and members from all ages and stages of the process across the province. And of course, if greater interactivity and direct networking is something you're looking for, the annual conference provides discounted rates for students and interns to attend and learn through the lecture and courses offered. I should also mention that the 2024 OAA annual conference will be held in Niagara Falls from May 22nd to 24th, themed around housing, pushing the envelope. And while we're talking about conferences, on October 26th, the OAA is hosting a full day of live virtual webinars based on some of the education sessions from its conference in June with speakers from across Canada and Europe. You can visit oaa.on.ca and scroll down a little bit to read about highlights of Sudbury. Sessions would include designing for dignity in Canada's most remote communities, appropriate or appropriation, deep collaboration with Indigenous practitioners, and other talks on IDP, regreening strategies, and children's treatment centers. There's a special pricing of only $99 for intern architects, and it's completely free for OAA student associates. Now, though many of you have employment opportunities through co-op programs, colleagues, and connections, another benefit from being in the OAA is having a direct connection to employers across the province. The employment opportunities page is an invaluable resource provided to help you find work. Get leads on job opportunities and insights into work environments at various offices across your city, community, and region. You can see the links already posted up on the chat. So the OAA is continually working to build relationships with the 5 universities in Ontario with MArch programs. On an annual basis, the scholarships seen here are given out by the universities and recognize, at the OAA's request, exemplary work related to one of 2 topics: climate action and sustainable design, or equity, diversity, and inclusion, and truth and reconciliation. This year, the OAA has actually started posting some of these scholarship winners' theses and projects on the OAA website under a new Access to Architecture portal for you to check out. The OAA is also exploring how it can reach students not at the post-secondary level, but now at K-12. We're getting them younger and younger. So we want to be able to connect to the kids, parents, and teachers to not only show the power of architecture and how it's part of our everyday lives and brings together the arts and sciences, but also show why this profession is such an exciting thing to be part of and explain how you can enter it.
Thank you, Vincent, and thank you to all our speakers of the night for going through their aspects of the OAA and local societies. All the information shared tonight is also on the website, along with the OAA staff directory, should you want to reach out to them. We'll also be sending out an email next week, collecting many of the links shared this evening. Please reach out through our social media accounts and follow these accounts for all upcoming events and information. And we're also inviting all students to join the association. Your voice and feedback matters. We are now opening up the floor for the questions and answers session. Please use the Q&A function on Zoom and type away. We just wanted to note that we won't be able to answer specific questions regarding your unique scenarios, like, for example, your particular situation with ours or maybe schooling situation. These questions are best directed towards the registrar's office at the OAA. So I see that there's a number of questions that have already been answered, but we still have some that are open. The first one that I'm seeing here is from Nahal. She's saying, is there any classes or groups to help us be prepared for the exec exam? Maybe Christy can answer this one.
Sure. Thanks, Ida. So there are no OAA or OAA sponsored classes or preparatory courses, as that would be contrary to the OAA's agreement with the National Committee for the Examinations. But there are courses outside of the OAA. I just can't speak to them because that would be kind of a conflict of interest. Thanks, Ida.
All right, so next question is, how does one approach an architect to ask them to be a mentor? Possibly Neo might be able to answer this one.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So, a few ways you could actually, first of all, reach out through the database that we have, select the mentor specific to your criteria, geographical, whatever the aforementioned filters that we noted in the database. Have a friendly call with them at the beginning or email to introduce yourself, your interest of being a mentee. Usually mentors take on more than one, two. I personally, I don't know, I've lost count. I have more than 5, 6 currently that I'm mentoring, but it depends on their time. Some of them might not be that free to provide time because they have to come and sit with you periodically, whether monthly, bi-monthly. It depends on how involved you are in your career and how much time they can dedicate. That being said, schedule a call, schedule an email. If they're okay, then schedule a call and sit with them and share your information on your background and what's your career goals and what you're looking for beyond the OAA mandates for registering hours. And I'm talking is that's a prerequisite. Beyond that, take it to the next level. Foster a relationship with the mentor. That person has gone through a lot of road bumps and overcame them in terms of career and can enlighten your way through your career as well.
Great, thank you, Neil. Next question is from Sarpreet. I recently received my CACB accreditation for my bachelor's degree in architecture, and I'm planning to apply for intern architect status under the OAA. Is it required to have an employment under the OAA member before the application, or can it be done after securing the application? This might be another Christy question.
Thanks, Ida. Sarpreet, you do not need to be employed by an eligible employment situation to become an intern architect. So you are welcome to apply, and then you can find employment later.
Great, thank you. Any recommendations on activities, classes, courses, volunteer or jobs for foreign licensed architects willing to register as an intern architect, but still waiting for the CACB certification? Let's see here. Sorry, Christy, would you be able to fill this one again?
I could. I'll start the answer, but I'll throw it over to Joelle or anybody else. I think the first place people can take advantage of is looking at the OAA website. There is a classifieds section of the website that's really helpful in terms of seeing what's out there and available. And in terms, I think I'm going to open the floor to other people because I think there's a lot available out there to people. So I will be quiet now.
Yeah, maybe I'll add there. Get in touch with your local society, or even if there's not a super active local society there, check online. A lot of societies offer online courses, which are a really good way of getting local knowledge and an understanding of what's happening here, or networking events or social events. I think the most important thing is to just get out there. Just because you're waiting for the CACB or you're waiting for your license, you're working towards your license, doesn't mean that you shouldn't get involved with your local community as soon as you can. In fact, it makes the whole process a lot easier.
Great, thank you. Next up, can a foreign architect apply for positions mentioned during this seminar? I imagine this is maybe council or committee positions.
I can jump in here, Ida, if you like.
Sure, thank you.
Christy, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's only, you have to be registered with the OAA. So you can be registered as a licensed architect, as an intern, or as a student associate. So regardless of where you may hold other jurisdictions or education, you need to have membership with the OAA at one of those levels to be in a position at council or on committee. And then I also just noticed there was another question that was very similar. What are the minimum requirements? Just those, just being registered, especially as an intern or a student, there aren't any type of like educational or experience requirements to join a committee. You just have to be registered as a member and be enthusiastic about joining.
another question is how to become an intern architect. This is another Christy question there.
I think the most fulsome way would be to first go to the website, because there's an entire page is dedicated to intern architects, and it will list all the eligibility requirements. But basically, it's what we talked about earlier in the presentation, that you must be a graduate from an accredited program. You must have CACP certification. And that's about it. After that is when once you're enrolled in the program, you can start accumulating hours and things like that. But the requirements for an intern architect are listed on the website, but it's really just coming out of that accredited CACP certified program.
Next question is from Laura. I've been working for 6 months in Toronto before registering in the OAA. Do these count as experience for the intern architect process?
You want me to answer that, Anna?
I think, yeah.
Yeah, if you are a recent graduate or educated in Canada and becoming an intern architect, you cannot back enter your hours. You can only count your hours from moving forward once you are enrolled in the program.
Thank you, Christy. This one looks like a Neo question. Is it better to know your mentor before you ask them to be your mentor? Or is it all right to ask someone you don't know to be your mentor?
Ask people you don't know. I have people reaching out to me from outside of Canada before they even joined the OAA, preparing for their mentorship, and it's very fine. There's no shame in that. In fact, I would also like to add to the previous question of the internationally trained architects, beyond what Christy and Joel rightfully have indicated in terms of employments. If you're not already involved in the Ontario Building Code and the science of it, try to seek courses in that. There are many colleges and institutions that teaches the Ontario Building Code. Try to go online on the municipalities and read the bylaws. Those will be different from wherever you came from. That will assist you also in your job search, if you have that type of knowledge or at least insight to these kind of things. Don't be shy to reach out to mentors, even to talk to them without having to become or became an intern. If you just want to mingle and increase your relationship, that database is very useful. Although I think I may have misspoke in one thing. You have to be a member with the association in order to access that database. Heather or Christy, please correct me if I'm mistaken. Otherwise, you won't have that access to the database. But if you are a member with the association, you can access the database and you can see a list of those mentors that are shown interest into mentoring interns.
Thank you, Neo. It looks like Seth has something to add as well.
Yeah, I was just going to mention too that in choosing an architect, choosing a mentor, it might be beneficial also to choose a mentor that's doing something different than what you're doing at your job, so you can create balance. That, from my way back thinking about the work that I was doing at the firm that I was at, it was beneficial for me to get a mentor that was doing a different segment of work, because the intent of the mentor is to try to provide some balance and give you guidance on kind of a wholesome experiential job review and experience. And so I think if you get somebody that maybe is a little bit different than what you're doing, that might help you to kind of expand, and become more well-rounded. I also wanted to mention that to sit on council, you do have to be a licensed architect, and other committees also have terms of reference that require certain requirements for licensed architects, interns, and other associates. So if you're interested in that, usually they're advertised that way. And so I just wanted to expand a little bit on Heather's response as well, that there is a diversity of requirements, and the terms of reference for each committee usually provide that. And then, of course, when the call goes out to volunteers for committees, that information is also provided. So just be mindful of that, depending on your status with the OA.
Great, thank you. We have another question here asking about whether there is a demand for more of a demand for the exec to be held more than once a year. I guess the frequency of the exams, the reasoning for that. Oops.
Probably jump in there, Ida.
Sure.
One thing we need to be mindful of is that this is a national exam. So what's happening is that it's a coordination between the 12 provincial and territorial jurisdictions. It's not just Ontario based. So there's a pretty massive coordination effort that needs to be undertaken. And it's also administered outside of the jurisdictions by the organization called Exact and the committee related there too. So they consider all of these things due course, but I just want to say that it's not untypical to be offered once a year, especially because currently it is still just a pen and paper exam. It's not an online exam, so there's quite a bit of effort to coordinate that.
Thank you. And we have another mentor question. Any criteria involved to be enrolled under someone's specific mentor? Also, are interns eligible to have more than one mentor for diversity's sake?
So as far as the process goes, only one mentor per mentee. That being said, you don't have to be limited to one mentor to enrich your experience. This is type of your relationships and networks. Go mingle, go contact them. You won't need more than one, but having more than one is always welcome. And there's no minimum criteria for anything. It's just basically a mix and match when it comes to the database and time to be afforded from the mentor for the mentee.
And just to Neo's, you can only register one mentor at a time. So you have to officially register your mentor if you're an intern collecting OAA experience hours or CERB experience hours. And so you can only register one formal mentor at a time. But of course, as Neo said, that doesn't mean you can't take advantage of forming those relationships with other professionals.
Thank you. As a newcomer to the Foreign Architect program, where I'll be working with 4 firms for a total of 2 years, I have license of less than 3 years of international experience. What should my initial steps or priorities be? This might be a better question that's fielded directed towards the registrar's office, the OAA registrar's office. It's a bit particular, but yeah, I recommend contacting the OAA's registrar's office with this question.
Yeah, if I can just add a quick thing, because I've seen the question pop up from a few newcomers and internationally trained architects. We are having a session dedicated specifically to newcomer and path for internationally trained architectural professionals happening, and it's going to be TSA, CACB, and OAA. So if you would like to see, there are so many paths that we need a whole session for them. So maybe that will be a really good opportunity for you to get an idea of what's out there and help shape your priorities of how you want to approach it.
Perfect. Thank you, Joel. The next question is the exec exam a written exam, or are there practical components too?
I can answer that, Ida. It's completely a written exam, and it's based specifically on the experience categories that are set out in the IEP manual.
Great, thank you. So it looks like we have gone through all the questions, unless somebody wants to input any new questions. Nope. Okay. Great, thank you. So I'd like to thank everyone again for attending our session this evening, and don't forget to sign up. Great, thank you, everyone.